Welcome to the Can't Drive series. This is where these two ultra cool guys are going to hang out. We're going to talk story, and we are literally going to invite ourselves, but with positive vibes only, into your own journeys.
We're excited to share our perspectives, experiences, and the experiences of so many individuals we find inspiring in ways that we trust will bring you hope, motivation, and the inspiration to grow and ultimately thrive because, as I say, can. Jason is my coach, a cool Jamaican now living on the island of Kauaʻi. He has launched a coaching platform that blends a scientific approach, drawing from his PhD and background as a former biomedical researcher and medical communications consultant. Jason's now a highly regarded fitness specialist and coach. He focuses on tapping into his clients' sense of strength as they physically and mentally transform and thrive.
Yeah, it's true. I am Andy's coach. This guy is an entrepreneur. He's the founder of a local Kauaʻi apparel brand known as Can Period, which is rooted in the principles of positive psychology. He's also a dedicated nonprofit fundraiser with a background as an elite endurance athlete and somebody who cherishes all the endorphins that are downstream of really challenging physical activities, usually very cardio focused. He's super committed to continually improving in all aspects of his life, and more importantly, in helping others to discover their own spirit of Can. All right, guys, welcome back and welcome to this latest episode in the Can Thrive series. I'm Jason, joined here by Andy. You should know us by now because we have all of, 6 or 7 episodes that you've watched.
Sure.
And today we're expanding the conversation in the direction of, really when you're in a position that there's no time for your can't mindset. It doesn't mean that you necessarily understand in the moment why you're having, those doubts of can't, but really switching gears immediately because the stakes are high into your can mindset. And Andy, I don't know if you want to add anything just to, that brief description of just generally what we are gonna, share with these guys today, or if you want to just dive in.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I suggested the topic, thinking about a lot of the recent conversations we've had. I was actually rewriting, I'll plug the Can brand. I was rewriting the about the brand, and I thought of just the moment of when can't occurs. And there are different versions of it. Laying in bed, you got lots of time to process can't. Hopefully you don't marinate in it. Hopefully you get out of bed, you get the cup of coffee, and you think about how you're going to process whatever that can't is, address it, tackle it, and move forward. But then also the aspect of in competition, if you're, say, a first responder, if you're about to give a presentation, land a plane, make the putt. That was what really dawned on me. And I had the opportunity at the beginning of the school year for Spring Valley High School to present to the football team. And I talked to them about defeating can't at the speed of the game. And in my mind, that was about you don't have time to process can't. You have time to filter it, which means, next play, next can opportunity. So then you're leaning on your training, you're leaning on your teammates, and you really just don't have time to address can't. So sometimes a coach will pull you out of the game, pull you onto the sidelines because they realize that you actually are processing can't, and that's taken away from yourself and the team. So I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about you and the awesome stuff you're doing to become a pilot, and that moment in which you had talked to me about, you were nervous about having to land the plane. I think it was in a crosswind or something. And I thought, man, like, what is that all about? Like, you've got to rely on the most basic amount of training you have so far, and maybe what someone told you you're supposed to do. And and that's it.
I mean, I can definitely expand on that one because for me, that was definitely sort of a series of moments of there's just no space for can't, right? So you guys may not know that I'm learning to fly. So very early days. And, my instructor weeks ago was, had been trying to teach me how to land the plane. And it looks super simple. And, we travel and it happens safely all the time, thankfully. Probably one of the most challenging skills to learn as a new pilot. And, repetition after repetition, feeling like, wow, I don't have the basics under my belt. I really don't know how to, land the plane under quote unquote normal circumstances. And out of the blue, one of my lessons, the wind was coming across the runway. So we call it a crosswind, which makes landing more difficult because now you are contending with the wind pushing you away from the runway. Not good if you don't know how to account for it or to land safely. And in those moments, suddenly there was no time for me to think, well, I don't even know how to land this thing when I don't have a crosswind. That sort of is offloaded to, my subconscious, if you will. And whatever I learned became automated so that I could focus on the real issue at hand, which is the wind blowing from the side, pushing the plane away from the runway. I don't want to land on the grass. I don't want to land in the ocean. I certainly don't want to land on a building, right? So, managing that in the moment the stakes are high, I'm filtering out the can't. I can't land this plane under normal circumstances. Therefore, I can't land this plane in a crosswind. To, okay, forget about that. All we're dealing with right now is the reality of a crosswind landing. Got to make it, get those wheels down on the runway safely, right? And so I think it's similar, like you're explaining, in a game, stakes are high, the next play is important, filtering out any doubts that you have and going for it, essentially.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them obviously are made up. They compound on you. And I was even thinking about pregame, the importance of visualization, the importance of the right mindset going into the thing you're about to do, so that when the can't, it's kind of out there always, right? And it can infiltrate you while you're on stage, or you have the plane in hand, or you're in the huddle. But I think the more you are leaning on training, your experience, right? So you can turn to that and be like, I know who I am. I'm a great athlete. I can sort this out. Or the visualization. I think visualization, I started to think about almost in most aspects of what you do. I even thought this morning, I was like, I'm going to visualize standing right here. I decided to put the furry hoodie on. That was a little different from what I visualized. But I was going to stand right here, and I was going to, have a decent podcast with you and try to be articulate and do my best. So I think that is one aspect of it. And then I think there's the relying on training. But I also do believe I was thinking about this awesome audiobook that I've been listening to called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan, I think it's Haidt. And it's, discussing a lot about kids playing. Like our generation got to do a lot of, I know people hate hearing about the Gen X experience, but the opportunities you had to go out and be on your own and fail and take risks and sort of sort out can't.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot to be said about those experiences when you're younger. I'm not saying it made me some Alex Honnold risk taker extraordinaire, but I
Please don't.
but I will say that I think, if you get to take risks, early on, and if you maintain that as a practice, it can really help you focus in on the moment. I think it's why, certain sports and golf and things like that, which I don't really play, but I get the idea of having to focus in on making a putt or doing something like that. So I think it's invaluable to have that as a practice, and then when you have to land the plane, or address an emergency, you might have a little bit more confidence.
And the way I think about exactly the idea is, imagine you have like a toolkit that you can like draw upon, right? And there are different types of tools in the toolkit. Really what we're talking about when we're talking about can't versus can, is our confidence, our knowledge in ourselves that we can do something. And, in fancy words, it's like our self-efficacy. There are different things, let's call them tools, that can contribute to that self-efficacy. And one is prior success. If you have been successful at something in the past, that has consciously and subconsciously pushed you forward in your belief in yourself to do it again, even in a different scenario. If you are sort of being encouraged by someone, you picture yourself on the field of play and the crowd is going nuts supporting you, that pushes you forward in your belief that you can do the thing. The opposite's also true. The crowd's booing you, you start to doubt yourself. It takes away from your can, right? But if you have, those experiences of winning in your toolbox, if you have, that external boost, if you will, in your toolbox. If you have in your toolbox inspiration from, someone else that that has done something similar, that also, sort of moves you forward in the moment into can, right? So you're talking about, yeah, I have those experiences, that can translate, yes, success in risk taking in some way. And you may not think that one necessarily contributes to the other in the future, but it does. On a subconscious level, there's a part of you that recognizes that prior success, that you're able to draw on that and bring into the moment, even if, you're not like actually processing any of that in the moment. It's sort of innate, it's there, and you're drawing on it. And the more reserves, if you will, the more of those tools that you have in the toolbox, then likely the better able you are to, filter that can't in the moment, refocus, tap into the can and get the thing done.
I like that a lot. And I couldn't help but hear the 12th man in my mind as you talked about, I'm a huge Seahawk fan and go Hawks. So, obviously they designed a stadium to incorporate crowd support and volume. And it's a huge aspect. And then if you think of just your little old self that doesn't have a fan club and you're doing the thing on your own, and you literally have to have
your own fan club.
Your own fan club, and especially in those moments. And it's kind of a fun way to think about it. Like, you kind of have to be your own 12th man, because you're not a professional football player in those scenarios. But it's kind of a neat thing to think about how coaches impact you. I love teachers and how much they do for students in teaching them about the process of confidence and what they have to do to overcome and get through things. And I think that is huge in the classroom. I was a horrible test taker. You're kind of...
I know, very hard to believe, but continue.
Are you kidding me? Brutal. Like, sweaty mess. Whereas you're like the genius, I'm sure.
Oh no, I was the vomiting mess. So don't be confused here.
Yeah, well, whatever.
I would be physically sick, sir.
Yeah, and then ruin the curve for everyone else, I'm sure.
I'm not gonna comment on that any further.
So, but anyways, I think there's aspects in the classroom, and I always go back to Jenna Caitlin. I love what she's done over at Wahiawa Middle School. About overcoming, negativity. But I think in the moment, it's huge. It's so important because there are moments in your life where you're going to have to be able to filter versus process can't. Yeah. And you really have to have a toolbox, a tool to overcome that. And there are different things. So,
yeah. And the last thing I would say really is, and, I reflect on this not infrequently, right? We're always going to be challenged in life at different levels. And a lot of our can't or doubts are sort of mirages, right? Yeah. We make the assumption that even if we've been able to be successful at one level of a thing, we say to ourselves, well, we can't be successful at a higher level of the thing. And that's sort of a mirage because we're forgetting all the scenarios, all the experiences, all the skills, all the creative problem solving that we had to bring to bear to get to that lower level, right? And those skills are still there, right? The ability to take what we have and cobble it together in sort of, a new way to address the new level of the challenge, that's there, right? So the mirage of I can't. You can perform at a higher level using the tools that you use to be successful at a prior level. And I think that's one of the things that I reflect on because it feels like if you give it the opportunity, it will hold you back.
Definitely. Yeah. If you marinate in it, it will, it'll take over. And that's the beauty of competition, I think, and sport and challenge is it teaches you that, but the joy of actually overcoming that is such a fun part of being human, right? Like, just the risk you would take to be a little bit uncomfortable and processing that doubt is so important. I wish I need to do more of that. So I was thinking about, I don't know how many of you tuned into the Netflix special with Alex Honnold climbing the side of the building. I know. It was insane.
Nope.
It's super similar to being Well, not similar, but you're in a plane.
Stop right there with exactly what you're going to say. I don't want to hear it. Okay. that is going to be stored in my can't toolbox. I don't need it. I'm going to throw it away. Thanks so much. Continue.
A lot more variables there, I understand. But what got me thinking about this ultimate high level of him, filtering can't, I don't even know I would be curious to know if it actually enters his mind at moments. There was a moment in which I thought was kind of compelling because I was worried about the audience watching him and just the change of that versus what he's normally experiences. But he said in a moment, he was like, I got to get back to it. Like, I think, and I felt like in his mind, he was like, I have this, heightened awareness of what I'm doing. I'm locked in, I'm focused. Mistakes occur when you're not, right? And so, but obviously he's trained, he focused on this. He had a lot he could fall back on mentally, but still an unbelievably compelling example. So I think there's tons of examples in the world, but it's a neat one to consider. And
and it's, like you said, the more, or like we both said, the more tools you have in that toolbox, the more things you have to draw on, whether consciously or subconsciously, the more prepared you are to, in the moment when you need to, immediately or very quickly filter out can't, really focus on the task ahead, approach it with can, and let it unfold. Whatever the experience is, you're going to add that to your sort of overall toolbox of success and ability to move forward.
Yep. I like it.
Yep.
Leave it there.
Yeah. And if you find yourself in the position of doubting that, there is the potential benefit in taking some time for yourself to stop and think back, well, what are the tools that I do have? Because you may just not be aware of them. You may not have spent time, positively engaged with your prior successes, positively engaged with people or scenarios that are inspirational to you. So that, by putting some intention and attention there, you will have that in some way to draw on when you're finding that you need it.
Agreed.
All right, guys, I think we'll wrap up there. I have no idea what the topic for the next one will be. We will see. Hopefully you found this useful and meaningful, hopefully inspirational, so that you can also filter out can't in the moments where it's most important. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Definitely. Thanks, Jason.
All right. Thanks, Andy. See you. Take care.
If our conversation has been meaningful to you in any way today, then please would like to encourage you to support us through, number one, subscribing to the Defeating Can't podcast, which Andy regularly hosts. Of course, following the Spirit of Can on Instagram, and definitely go ahead and pick up a piece of Can merch from any of the retail outlets like Deja Vu Surf here on Kauaʻi, or head online to thespiritofcan.com. We'll keep those links here below.
And be sure to follow Jason on LinkedIn and Instagram accounts and reach out to him by DM with any fitness, lifestyle, or well-being and performance-related questions you have. He'd love to learn more about you as he has with me and support your continued growth and well-being through coaching.
All right, guys, super important to keep in mind the context of all our conversations here in this series. And I am a certified health and well-being coach. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a fitness nutrition specialist. But at the end of the day, I am not a physician. I am not a therapist. I'm not a registered dietitian. So it's really important to keep that in mind and consult with your preferred healthcare provider, whether that be a medical doctor or a therapist, to ensure that your particular needs are being met specifically by a trained professional.
And just as Jason mentioned, the discussions and concepts discussed in this podcast are for informational purposes only. If the can't in your mind ever becomes too much, we encourage you to consult with a professional. You remember this sticker? You've probably seen it in order or out in the world. We've given away thousands of these, as it's so important that we want you to reach out when you need it.